Hello and welcome to the first ever episode of the More Than English podcast. I am your host and teacher, Jesse from Sweed Academy, and I'm here to help you get the job, pass the exam, and travel the world. And I'd like to thank you for joining me in this venture, in this project called the podcasting world. I didn't want to create a standard, typical English-speaking podcast that you can find anywhere. I wanted to create something that teaches and talks about more than just English, hence the name More Than English Podcast. We're going to talk about the philosophy of learning a language and how that can apply in other areas of your life, because I'm very big on, and it's very important to me to understand and teach and learn that the skills, and I don't mean the grammar skills or the vocabulary skills or the exam skills, but the language learning skills themselves. If you understand those, they can apply to any area of your life, and I'm going to explain that today. I'm also going to explain why practice does not make perfect. But that's what I'd like to do with this podcast. I'd like to talk about more than just English. Many areas of life. I'd like to invite you to join me as I'm learning in life, right? Learning about website development, learning about business growth, learning about how to be a father, learning about how to be a husband, learning life, right? And I believe that the skills that apply to learning a language also apply to any area of life. We're going to talk about that. Also, in future episodes, I'd like to have interesting guests with real natural conversations. I think that is very valuable. The most valuable thing that you can do as a language learner. Because living in Spain, learning Spanish, I had lived in Korea and learned Korean. Hearing genuine, authentic, real conversation is the best kind of listening to practice. Don't you agree? Also, before each episode, I'm going to pre-teach certain vocabulary words and natural expressions that you're going to hear in that episode. So you can learn the expressions before and then listen to how they're used in context, and you'll already have your ear ready to listen to them. So let's look at the words and expressions that we're going to use in today's episode. And by the way, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at Sweed Academy and follow me on Facebook at Sweed Academy English and Jesse Teacher. And I'll have PDFs to go along with this so you can actually see the words and see the expressions as you're listening to the podcast. So follow me and join me. Okay, let's get started. I have 12 expressions and vocabulary words that I'd like to highlight in this episode. So the first one is venture. Venture. And this is a business project or business adventure, really, where something is risked. You're taking a risk to hope to gain a reward. So starting a new business project. Anything new, it's a venture, a business venture. It's typically used in business. So you see on the PDF, the example, how you're going to hear it in context. I say, thank you for joining me in this venture, in this new project, right? It comes from, you see it's similar to the word adventure, right? Except for just venture is typically business related. Next, all the time. All the time. This is just another way to say always, right? So Students ask me all the time. It's something students ask me all the time. Or we could say, I could have just said, students always ask me. But always would go before the verb. But here I say, students ask me all the time. In response to. In response to. This is an expression to explain that you're responding, right? It's used kind of like a noun. It's a noun expression, right? Because a response is the noun. So if somebody asks you a question, you answer it in response to the question. In my example, I say, I ask the same question in response to this every time. I ask a question to answer the student's question. You'll see what I mean. The next, the all wonderful question tags, isn't it? Note the intonation I use. If you have the intonation going up, isn't it? That asks a genuine question that you want an answer to. An intonation going down, isn't it? It's more for just confirmation. It's more for just finishing a sentence smoothly, right? And engaging the other person, right? And I say, it's kind of logical, isn't it? Trying to engage your answer. Next, nonsense. Something that is silly or doesn't make any sense, right? It's nonsense. Like silly games or silly things to watch. In this example, I say, read blogs, read news articles, read science journals, read sports articles, read nonsense. These are things that are just silly. Next, a trick. A trick here, I'm going to use it means a small hint or a hack to do something better, right? A trick to do something. Here's the trick. Here's the secret. That's what I'm going to say. Next is a form of speech, alliteration. Alliteration is a form of speech where a group of words all start with the same letter or sound. So it's kind of like rhyme, except for rhyme finishes with the same sound, right? We rhyme all the time. Alliteration starts with the same sound. For example, practice makes perfect. This might not be exactly alliteration, but it kind of is. This is very powerful if you do a lot of public speeches. It's very powerful for public speeches. Let's imagine you have 3 points you have to give. I'm going to tell you why our product is smart, secure, and simple to use. Right? The 3 S's. That's alliteration. Next, to ingrain. If you ingrain, or if something is ingrained in you, it means it's permanently fixed or established, right? And it's typically something that's in your mind or in your character. In the podcast, I'll say, if I practice the wrong way, I'm just ingraining the wrong way in my head, the wrong way to do it, right? I'm ingraining, I'm pressing, I'm establishing. I'll explain that in the podcast too. To solidify something is to make it solid. It's the verb of solid, right? Or to make solid. You solidify something. In this case, I'm going to use it. In this case, I'm going to use it as in the mind. To solidify it in the mind. Also with ingrain. To permanently fix it in your mind, right? It's also used in science. If you're a scientist, you'll use solidify, right? This chemical solidifies the other chemical, something like that. Next, I use a term that's in linguistics, and that's fossilized errors. I explained this in the podcast, but it's when you learn something the wrong way so much that you know and use it the wrong way. If you use the present tense when talking about the past so much and nobody corrects you, and you do it so much that that's just how you speak now. You speak and you say it wrong because it's fossilized, it's fixed, it's solidified in your mind as wrong. We need to break those. And broadly, it's the adverb of broad. Once we see the way broadly, we can see it in all ways. That's what I'll say. And that's a philosophy I love. Okay. And that is the point of this More Than English podcast, because once you see the way broadly, you can see it in all ways. It applies to learning language, learning an instrument, being a better friend, being a better wife or husband, boyfriend, girlfriend. All of this. It works. It's not only English, it's more than English. And let's get started. Hey there, English speakers. Welcome to the first episode of the More Than English podcast. I'm your host, Jesse, from Sweed Academy. You can find me and complete courses at sweedacademy.teachable.com. On there, I will also have an outline, a PDF outline with certain vocabulary words and expressions that I use in this podcast, because I don't have a script. I'm just going, speaking naturally, and seeing what happens, really. So thank you for joining me in this venture, in this new project, which is the podcast world. It's very nice to be with you, and in this first episode, I'd like to cover from the beginning, because students ask me all the time, how do I get better at speaking? How do I get better at writing? How do I get better at reading? Some ask me, how do I get better at listening? And I have the same question. I ask the same question in response to this every time. My question that I ask is, how often do you, and then do the skill that they ask. If you ask me, I'll save you time. You don't have to contact me at facebook.com/SweedAcademyJesse or /SweedAcademyEnglish. I'll tell you right now what my answer is. If you ask me, how do I improve my writing? My question is, how often do you write? How do I improve my speaking? How often do you speak? How do I improve my listening? How often do you listen to natural English things? How do I improve my reading? How often do you read? Right? That's my question. You could ask me anything. How do I improve my football skills? How do I improve the guitar? How do I improve the piano? How do I improve drawing? How do I improve, well, anything? The answer is the exact same. Practice. Practice. Do it more. Right? It's kind of logical, isn't it? If you want to improve speaking, speak more. If you want to improve your writing, write more. You want to improve your reading, read more. You want to improve your listening, listen to more things. And as far as reading and listening goes, I recommend listen to and read a variety of things. If you're reading, read blogs, read news articles, read science journals, read sports articles, read funny articles, read nonsense, right? As many different topics as you can read. You will get new vocabulary from each of those things that you read, right? A sports journal is going to use different vocabulary than the New York Times or Forbes magazine. They're going to use different vocabulary because they're describing different things. So as far as reading and listening go, read and listen to a variety of different topics. And as far as speaking and writing go, daily practice. Write in a journal if you have to. Every day. What did you do that day? At the end of the night, right? What did you do that day? For speaking practice, if you don't have a speaking partner, talk into your phone, the voice memo. Record yourself speaking for maybe 2 or 3 minutes at first, maybe build up to 5 minutes or even more. But what did you do that day? Or give your opinion on something, right? Record yourself and then go back and read what you wrote or listen to what you just said. These are fantastic ways to practice. It all comes down to practice. But here's the trick. Here's the secret that people don't tell you. In fact, they tell you the opposite. People will tell you practice makes perfect. You're probably thinking that right now. You probably thought that when I started talking about practice. That probably automatically came to your mind. Well, forget it. It's not true. Practice does not make perfect. It's a nice saying. It's a nice cliche. It's a nice thing to hear. It has the alliteration of the P's. Practice makes perfect. And it sounds nice. And people want to be perfect. But it's just not true, guys. It's just not true. Why? Because I could practice something 1,000 times. And if I practice it the same way 1,000 times, and those 1,000 times I do the exact same thing, but it's wrong, then I'm just ingraining the wrong, I'm pushing the wrong way into my mind, and I'm solidifying the wrong way. In English, we call that fossilized errors. When you practice something wrong so many times that it becomes natural to do it wrong. Those are called fossilized errors. In my classes, I try to fix those. I try to help those and improve those. So let me build on that. Practice doesn't make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. But what is perfect practice? Well, perfect practice is intending to practice something and improving one thing each time you practice, right? Go back and watch or listen to something you were saying. Go back and read something you wrote. Find one mistake, one thing that you did wrong that you say, oh, the past simple, I knew that. I know I should use that. Why did I write the past continuous? Well, that might be a fossilized error. So physically with your pencil, cross it out and write the correct way and write the sentence again. That's a form of perfect practice. You're fixing something that you did wrong the first time and you're trying to improve it. Perfect practice makes perfect. Each time you practice, find one thing that you have to improve on. One error, one weakness, one thing. Don't try too much. One is enough. Find one, fix it, and try not to make that mistake again. And if you do, catch yourself doing it and fix yourself. These are ways that you can teach yourself. You can learn from yourself. And these are beautiful ways to improve not only English. This is why it's called More Than English Podcast. These skills are to help you improve in anything in life, because once we see the way broadly, we can understand all ways, right? There was a Japanese philosopher, Musashi, who said this. I know I pronounced his name horribly, and I apologize to any Japanese students, but you get the idea. If you understand the way broadly, you can understand all ways, right? So these skills transfer whether you're learning an instrument, whether you're learning a language, whether you're learning a skill, whether you're learning how to start your own business, whether you're learning how to be a better boyfriend or girlfriend, whether you're learning how to be a better husband or wife. These skills transfer, especially this. Practice does not make perfect. Perfect practice makes perfect. trying to build, trying to improve on one thing each day. And step by step, oh baby, gonna get to you, girl. No, step by step, right? We don't climb Mount Everest in one jump, right? It's step by step. In the beginning, you feel like you're never going to arrive. Step by step, practice, training, conditioning, concentrated practice, right? If I'm climbing Mount Everest, I'm not going to practice swimming, right? I want to practice hiking and climbing and walking, right? Concentrated, focused practice and improving one thing at a time. That's what I try to do in my classes. That's what I try to help students with. If you would like to sign up for a one-on-one class, then go to sweedacademy.teachable.com and click up on the one-on-one classes button, and you can see my schedule and you can sign up for a class. If you'd like to just see what my classes are like, you can visit my YouTube channel, which is in the description box, or go to facebook.com/Sweed Academy Jesse or Sweed Academy English and check out my classes. At my Jesse teacher page, I give live lessons that you can actually interact with me, right? And for those of you who want to really become fluent and that are serious and you want to become better and get to that next level, I have my English Black Belt program. And with this program, you get all of my online courses that I've created and I will create. Plus, you get a list of all of these podcasts that are going to go up, and you'll be able to have access to those all in a row, plus the PDF worksheets to go along with them. And you'll get access to my Facebook page where I'm going to give live lessons, and you will be able to call in and join me in those live lessons and have actual live lessons and improve with personal coaching. So, join me at sweedacademy.teachable.com, and I want to help you. And if not, this week, find one thing that you want to improve and practice it perfectly. Thanks for listening. This is Jesse, helping you to get the job, pass the exam, and travel the world. I'll see you next time.